So first, you got to know what the chromatic bebop exercise is. I always forget if it's bebop chromatic or chromatic bebop. I made 2 videos on it, so check those out first if you haven't seen those. It's basically a string of bebop licks. You've got stuff like that. So assuming that you've learned the exercise, let's talk about how you can get it into your playing. The chromatic bebop exercise is over a dominant chord, okay, and it fits, the whole thing fits over a dominant chord with natural extensions. So what I mean by that is you have a natural 9, so that would be a D if we're playing over a C dominant, and then it would be like a natural 13, okay. That would be A. So that's the kind of dominant we're talking about. Now there's 2 situations that you might be having an opportunity to use these licks. The first situation is going to be a static dominant chord or a static minor chord. And the second situation is going to be like a 2-5-1. Then you can use that because you've got your natural extensions dominant chord in there. Let's look at the first situation because it's simpler, playing over a static dominant or a minor chord, and then we'll look at the second situation where you're playing over a cadence. There's a relative minor to dominant chords, and that is found on the, if you go down a 4th, so if you're in C, you go to G, and you can play a minor, or you can go up. You can think of it as going up a 5th, and playing a G, or playing a minor chord, minor 7th, you can see and hear that a C dominant with a 9 in it is basically the same as a G minor 6 chord. And essentially that describes either a Dorian scale or a melodic minor scale. So let's set up a little vamp here, and I'll show you some of the things I would think about as I'm improvising over this, and then how to incorporate this chromatic bebop. So I'm going to set up a vamp in with over a C dominant chord, okay? Okay, there we go. Now, first I'm going to just show you how you can play G minor stuff over this and it fits perfectly. Now you can play G Dorian. You can play G melodic minor. You can play C, because this is a C dominant, I can play C blues. You want to start on a downbeat for this bebop line. If I'm going to play now, you can do a lead-in note. You can do a what's it called? A pickup. You can do a pickup. And then you just go right back into your G minor stuff. And over G minor, you can go to the 5th of that, right? That would be D, and play a D minor arpeggio. other thing that would work would be a D pentatonic. That's a nice sound. Mixed with your G minor. And you could take a piece of that chromatic bebop . You can do some patterns with your pentatonic, right? Whoops. Try. Okay, that's getting old. And likewise, you could be playing over a vamp in G minor, and you can play all the same stuff. Okay, let me just really briefly show you that. That would be something like G minor, C dominant. So as you can hear, that works just as good. So let's talk about the second situation, which is a little bit more interesting and a little bit more difficult, and that's playing over a cadence. So in that case, you might be doing something like, let's say, G minor, C7 to F major 7, right? So if you're doing that, you could play you just need to resolve it to that target chord. In this case, it would be F. So let's take a standard, and we'll look at how we could use some of these chromatic bebop licks. So let's take Autumn Leaves. So let's do the loop. Okay, so we'll take a look at this for a second. Now we can see right from the get-go here that we've got a minor moving to that dominant 7, okay, in this position, and the dominant 7 is an F. So therefore we should be able to play that chromatic bebop scale on the first 2 chords and then resolve it to G major 7. So let's try something. Okay, so right away, if I play the very beginning of it, you can see that it doesn't work that great, and the reason is the loop is starting, or the chords are starting on this C minor, but the beginning of the chromatic bebop exercise starts on an F. So it doesn't fit that well with the chord. I mean, it's okay as a color note, but it doesn't describe the chord. But if I went, let's say, if I start from this part of it, so if I started from, I could start from here. Now, when I get to this note, we're going to be moving on to this to this B flat major 7. And so I need to play something that fits with that. And a lot of times I like to think of the relative minor. It's easier for me, but you certainly, if you're comfortable with B flat major and you know your B flat major scale, that's great. For me, I tend to think in the relative minor. So in B flat major, I would think G minor actually. And so they're the same notes. A G natural minor is the same notes as a B flat major scale. So I would go So then it goes to the E flat major 7. You can continue to play G minor over that. And then we have a minor 2-5-1 to G minor. It turns out that you can still play the same stuff that you would play over that major 2-5-1 to B flat, and that's because when you play a cadence to a major chord, you can play the same exact notes if you're doing a cadence to the relative minor, and vice versa, which is really pretty cool. It sort of doubles all of your stuff. That means I can play my Chromatic Bebop stuff. I can do another one and then resolve again. So let's try that. So you can see that you can incorporate the Chromatic Bebop lines into both the static dominant situation, static minor chord, and also a minor 2-5-1 and a major 2-5-1. Let's say we're doing blue bossa. So you're doing something like we played a minor 2-5-1 to C minor. So all you have to do is you say, okay, C minor is the minor relative to what major? Well, it's E flat, okay? We just pretend we're doing a 2-5-1 to E flat, right? So that gives us what? That gives us, that's a lot of math, but gives us F minor to B flat 7. So now we would have to play B flat 7 as our Chromatic Bebop. If we take a little shortcut here, we can see B flat is actually a step below C. So if a little shortcut is you go one step down below the root of your minor that you're playing the minor 2-5-1 in, and then you play it off that as where you're starting from for your Chromatic Bebop line. So here's our C. We go down a step and we play. So now we're, okay, here we go. So it does take a little bit of practice to kind of be able to quickly know where these lines are. But if you practice it, go through the songs you know, the standards you know, and start to apply some of these phrases, what you'll find is that it gives you a whole new world that will just add to all the stuff you already know, all the language you already have, a whole set of vocabulary. I think I'm beating this to death, but I think it's really cool. So hopefully that helps, and hopefully this wasn't too long-winded, and hopefully you get something from this. Happy improvising. Have a good one.